The holiday season is up on us. For many of us, it'll be kind of a mix of joy and happiness and excitement about the holidays on one hand. On the other hand, stress, anxiety, maybe even a little bit of grief. And in the middle of all of it, we tend to forget to take care of ourselves. In this episode of Healthy and Black, we'll talk about how you can have the healthiest, happiest holiday season ever. Hi, I'm Dr. Jarek Conrad. Welcome to Healthy and Black, where I share information about the state of health for Black America across 7 categories, from emotional health to physical health. I became plant-based over 15 years ago after losing so many of my family members to chronic health issues. Now I want to help you take control of your health. All right. Welcome to this episode of Healthy and Black. So we'll talk about the holidays. Man, it's this mix of joy and stress and, expectations and disappointment, just all kinds of emotions we go through. And so in typical Dr. Jarek Conrad style, I'm going to probably bring you down first, talk a little bit about the reality of the holiday season and share a few statistics that kind of characterize some of the things that we experience. Emergency room visits are up between 5 and 12%. Patient length of stay in the hospitals increases by over 40%. The main culprits are decorating, toys, and cooking. So let me share a few more stats with you. During the 2020 holiday season, and that goes from, if you think of the holiday season from November to the end of January, more than 14,000 people were treated in hospital emergency departments due to holiday decorating related injuries. Part of it is, there's so much excitement and we're moving so fast and we're not fully present and mindful about the things that we're doing. So decorating is one issue. Toys are another big issue. A recent U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission report found that there were 11 deaths and an estimated 145,500 emergency department-treated injuries in 2022. And this is for toys for children 12 years of age and younger. So just think about this. This is a time of great joy and excitement for kids, and it ends in a trip to the hospital emergency room. Another source of these ER visits is cooking. Thanksgiving Day is the peak day for cooking fires in the United States, with an average of 1,600 cooking fires occurring, which is more than 3 times the daily average of cooking fires. We know, too, that according to the American Heart Association, there's a big spike in heart-related issues around the holiday season. And so, again, think about this. You're having a great time and everything gets interrupted because somebody gets sick. There's a heart attack or, what feels like or seems like a heart attack. And then we have to rush our loved ones to the hospital. And that becomes a new memory of the holiday season. So it's a challenge. In fact, almost 50% of us would describe the holidays in both positive and negative ways. And most of us would say it's a bit bittersweet because there are a lot of people who are dealing with loss around the holidays. Either they lost a loved one during the year, and it's during the holiday season that they really start thinking about them. They're thinking about the traditions that they had, and traveling to be able to see them. For others, it was some of these emergency room visits or just bad things that happen around the holiday season that amplified the emotions that people are feeling and kind of carved in their memory this negative experience that sometimes can overshadow the many, many positive things that people have experienced over the holidays. So it's a challenge. It's so much of a challenge that somewhere around 35 to 40% of Americans are not looking at all to the holiday season. It is not a fun time for them. It is not an exciting time for them. It is a time filled with great despair and grief. So, so this is the bad news, but there's the good side. We get to see people that maybe we haven't seen all year or in a number of years. Invariably people get together and they start to share stories and experiences and reminisce about positive things that have happened. And a lot of us, we just go right back to childhood. We become big little kids around the holidays because we remember what it was like when we were the ones opening up the toys and having all the fun. And we get to see that, many of us, through the eyes of our children. And for some of us, I'm not there yet, but for some of us, it's probably magic to be able to see your kids and then your grandkids experience that same amount of joy that people feel around the holiday season. So it's a mix. What I thought I'd talk about today is really taking care of yourself, controlling the things that we can control. And there's a lot that we can control that we don't think about. So what are some tips for us to make sure that this holiday season can go as well as can possibly be expected? Number one is managing your expectations, right? Understanding what you want to accomplish, what you hope will happen, but realizing that not everything that you hope would happen will likely happen, or it may not happen the way that you hope it would. So managing your expectations. I don't mean being pessimistic. Oh, it ain't gonna go right, so why try? I mean, keeping in mind that, we gotta adjust. We have to be flexible. We can never control other people's behavior. So they may not respond to things the way we want them to. They may not prioritize the same things that we would want. They may not seem as excited about the things that, we might feel excited about around the holiday season. So it's important to temper those expectations and just be balanced and adopt a little bit of a go with the flow mentality on some of that stuff. So that's thing number one. Number two, especially for people who are maybe dealing with some level of grief, I think it's important to allow yourself to experience those emotions. Don't try to bottle them up because in the long run, sometimes it just turns out worse. When you get to that breaking point, it's even worse than it would have been if you were able to articulate what you're feeling. Find somebody to talk to. If it's not a spouse or a family member, maybe even seek some professional help. Being able to number one, identify. Now I'm thinking from an emotional intelligence standpoint, being able to identify what it is you're feeling. Better yet, understanding why you're feeling the way you're feeling and being able to articulate exactly what that is really, really important to be able to get that out. And once you get it out, you have to put together a plan for dealing with it. And so you got to decide how much do I really want to be around a lot of people? Is it going to nourish me in a way? Is it going to support me? Am I going to feel better as a result of having people around to support me and share in what it is I'm feeling? Or do I need to build in some alone time so that I can deal with this in a way that's most effective for me? So really understanding what's the effective way for you to deal with that is important. Understanding that it's natural to feel that way, particularly if you've had a loss associated with the holidays or if you've had a loss that year, and this is the first year you're experiencing the holidays without a particular loved one. So that's really the most important thing. Another thing is we don't want to exacerbate the challenges that we might be experiencing by self-medicating. We know that oftentimes alcohol, illicit drug use tends to go up, and food. People medicate with food. And so overeating is a challenge around holiday time as well. So be very mindful about what you're putting in your body and why. That soothing is temporary, right? You don't want to cause long-term issues. So don't self-medicate with alcohol or drugs or food or anything like that. Another way to deal with grief is sometimes by helping others. If you've experienced that loss, there's probably other people in your family that are feeling the same way. For you all to be able to talk about that and support each other, for you to be able to support your loved ones who may be struggling with dealing with this, also feeds you. It can help you to be able to work effectively through that. So I would just offer those tips as ways to deal with the grief that you might be experiencing. I know from a personal standpoint, you all have all heard my story in that my mother, father, all my siblings are no longer with us. And around the holidays, I just reflect. And I find myself, without even trying to, I find myself smiling a lot because the things that pop in my mind are just these crazy stories, particularly the stories my mother used to tell and the fun that we used to have. We didn't have much, but the holiday season was a big time for us. And for some reason, I said we didn't have much. We had this little bitty place, but so many people in our extended family would come over our house for the holidays, and we'd have a good old time. And I was a little kid, but everybody treated me like an adult, so I was able to stay up late and play cards and be a little grown man at the table during these celebrations. So I miss those times, but I definitely I smile when I think about them. So acknowledging your feelings, where they're coming from, have a plan to deal with it, and I'd have a backup plan. If you feel like, oh, I can do this, I can make this. I'm a little sad, but I'm okay. I'm strong. I'll push through this. Have a plan B, just in case you're not feeling up to it. What are you gonna do? How are you gonna deal with that? That's grief. In terms of taking care of yourself, there are some other things that are within our control. I talked about setting realistic expectations. That's part of having a proper mindset for going into the holiday season. You read all these articles about stress and anxiety and, all you read all that stuff. I always try not to fall for the same mistakes that everybody else is falling for. If I know it's coming, I'm trying to do whatever I can to get ahead of it. So understand that things are not going to go perfectly, period. There are some things that you would probably do differently if you could orchestrate the whole holiday season, but you can't. And so just be loose, be flexible, be open, and have the proper mindset. And just don't feel like, man, everything is all messed up now because one thing is messed up. So that's one thing. Set appropriate boundaries. A lot of the challenges that we experience around the holiday season is we're trying to do so much for other people. We're trying to make everything so special for them that, again, we neglect ourselves. You can't do that. You're going to spend post-holiday season trying to recover from beating yourself down during that process. So set appropriate boundaries. What are your boundaries? What are you willing to tolerate, not tolerate? What are you willing to engage in, not engage in? So think about that. And I mean, from a psychological standpoint, but also a very practical standpoint. Yeah. Maybe eating the Thanksgiving meal 5 times is not appropriate for you. So think about boundaries around what you're going to consume and how are you going to interact. So that's part of it. When things don't go your way, how can you practice responding versus reacting? Responding versus reacting. So what's the difference? If I'm reacting to something, it's almost a knee-jerk kind of thing. There's not a whole lot of thought and preparation and intentionality about that. Whereas responding kind of indicates there's some thought here. There's a thoughtful way that I'm going to, in a controlled way, respond to whatever it is that's going on out there. So what I love about that is that you feel in control. When you react, You got to go back to apologize because you kind of lost control. When you respond, it's empowering because you were able to hold it together and give it the best shot of working out. Now, other people may not always respond. They may react, but you have control. Nobody can make you react a certain way. I'm sure you've heard this before. Nobody can force you to react a certain way. They can't make you say a certain thing. They can't make you feel a certain way. You choose how you feel. Somebody can call you a name. Somebody can say this food is lousy that you made. Somebody can, whatever it is. You choose how you want to respond to that. They can't make you respond a certain way. So think about that. Movement. So not only do people eat a lot, people tend to overeat during the holidays, but it's a lot of sitting around, watching television, watching games, or talking with friends and family, or going from one place to another. The only movement is going from one house to another so I can sit down and eat again. Be very careful about that. Move, stand up, move around, put on some music, dance. There's no law against exercising during the holidays, right? You can get up early and get your exercise in. Even if you're on the road, you're staying in a hotel, it's got a fitness center, probably. If you're not staying at a hotel, if you're somebody's house, or you're at a place that doesn't have a fitness center, do some push-ups, do some squats, do some sit-ups, lift your luggage, lift something in your room. There's really no excuse not to move unless you're injured in some way. And I've heard people say this before. Oh yeah, I'm going to work out so that I can eat more. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me either. I'm going to work out to clear some space, and then I'm going to fill that space and then put some more calories on top of that. At the end of the day, I end up worse off than I was when I came. Be very careful about that, but certainly move. Movement is important. Sleep. Sleep is another thing that suffers during the holiday season because sometimes, we have a lot of catching up to do. When my friends visit, or if I'm visiting some of my friends and family, once the kids go to bed, we're up talking into the wee hours of the night, telling stories. And again, remembering things that have happened in the past. And that's great. To catch up like that is wonderful, but be very careful around not getting sleep for consecutive nights in a row, because it's going to catch up with you. It's really a few things worse than enjoying the holiday season, but not taking care of yourself. So you start the first of the year in bad shape. You're sick. You don't feel well. You're trying to recover because you partied too hard during the holiday season. So your 2025 gets off to a bad start. We don't want that to happen, right? You want to start 2025 fresh and ready to go to make it the best year ever. So that's sleep. The big one for me. The big one for me is nutrition. We got to be able to control what we put in our mouths and how much of it we put in our mouths. It's fascinating to me that typically when I'm talking to somebody about the holidays, man, in the first couple of sentences that come out of their mouths, it's what we're going to eat. Oh, I'm going to have this. I'm going to have that. I'm going to have this. You are a month out and you're already looking at, what you're going to gorge on. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Again, you're setting yourself up to unfortunately be one of those people that end up sick or something during the holiday season. So be very careful. Watch your portion control. Don't feel like you have to eat a whole meal at every person's house you stop by. I don't want to hurt their feelings. So if they care about you, then they know you're trying to take care of yourself. You can nibble a little bit. You can put some things on the plate and you can kind of nurse it a little bit, but you're going to have to live with you. You are going to have to deal with the consequences of neglecting you. They're not going to have to deal with that. And so you got to prioritize yourself. It's critically important. Another thing I want to talk about around the holidays is tradition. So much of this food thing is tied up in tradition. We got a specific menu that so many people eat. It's the only time of year you eat these things, and you eat them around the holiday time. Why? Why? I mean, you know, we really got to be tied to some tradition that happened years and years ago where we don't even know whether it's the real story that went down. Who benefits from this? Food companies benefit from it. Marketing agencies benefit from it. The grocery stores benefit from it. But a lot of this stuff, again, leads to chronic health issues for you. So there's nothing that says you have to eat a certain thing on the holidays. I mean, I guess there's something that says it. Tradition does, but you can make your own tradition. I know in my household, we pick a different region of the world and we make meals from that region of the world every year. So, of course, we're plant-based, so we don't do the traditional meals and all that stuff. Now, there are plant-based alternatives to almost everything you have during those traditional meals, but of course, not all those products are the most healthy either. But yeah, we make it fun. We all look through our cookbooks or think about recipes that we have, including my kids who are 10 and 13. And we all pick at least one item once we as a family decide on what the theme is. So if it's Italian themed, everybody picks an Italian themed menu item and you got to make the item that you pick. We cook together. So that's part of our tradition. And we explore new foods from some region of the world. And we go all out. We'll have some music in the background from that region. If we're eating sushi, we got chopsticks. We're not messing around. We're having fun exploring different cultures and doing something new and exciting. So think about your own traditions that you want to create. Games. Think about a family game that could be a tradition that you all do every year. What about a performance? One of my fondest memories, now I don't know that this was a holiday, but one of my fondest memories was growing up in the projects, and there's nobody alive today who would remember this. But growing up in the projects, my family and I, we did a rendition of One in a Million by Larry Graham. So we got broomsticks and stuff around the house. And we would do it over and over until we got it right. I'm sure if we had social media at that time, maybe it would have found its way to social media. But man, I remember that like it was yesterday, and it was so much fun. So what about something like that around the holidays, or reciting some poetry that is very meaningful for you? What about the family? Everybody pick a poem and recite that poem that kind of sums up the year that has passed or the year that's ahead, or how they feel about family, or whatever the theme might be. Could be a really fun and interesting holiday tradition. Telling family stories. Now, for most of us, this just happens. You don't have to plan it, but maybe scheduling some time, set aside some time to talk about funny stories and see who's got the funniest story or the most interesting family tidbit or whatever it might be. So there's so many things that you can do to create new traditions, and they don't have to always be centered around the food that you eat. It's really about the fellowship. It's about spending time with the people that you love. Here in California, a great tradition is hiking. The holiday morning, go out, just walk for a couple miles. Spend that time together as an extended family. When folks come to town, take them out. Take them to work out. And take them to go and be active together. If you live in a region of the country where the weather is nice, do something outside with your family. They may complain about it in the beginning, but it'll be fun. Most people, they get into it and they end up having a lot of fun. And again, it could become part of a tradition. So there are some things that you can control. There are things that you won't be able to control, but hopefully you can respond with some emotional intelligence. And we don't want to spend our holiday season destroying ourselves so that we struggle in the first part of the year and we're not getting off to a fresh start. The more you take care of yourself during this time period, the less you'll have to focus on making these drastic or dramatic changes once the first of the year starts. And then we set these very ambitious New Year's resolutions, and they're so ambitious that we can't follow up on them. What about if we didn't have a whole lot to go? What about if we didn't have a whole lot of weight to lose? What if we didn't have a whole lot of habits to try and break? That's less that we have to focus on for that next year. So I hope that this has been helpful. I do want to leave you with a positive note. I shared a lot of sad, sobering statistics. Here is a positive note. Nearly 7 in 10, so about 69% of folks agree that the stress surrounding the holiday season is worth it. And about 84% of people say the holiday season creates a sense of togetherness. So it can be a wonderful time of the year. But remember, don't let culture, cost, or convenience ruin your health during this holiday season. Take care. Happy holidays. Thanks for joining me for this episode of Healthy and Black. I'm your host, Dr. Jarek Conrad. If you have feedback on today's episode, please email info@jarekconrad.com. I'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to visit jarekconrad.com to subscribe to my blog. Thanks for listening. Please tell your friends about the podcast. Until next time, don't let culture, cost, or convenience ruin your health.